So what if I told you that the famous pink moon, well, it isn't actually pink.
Right, not at all.
Yeah, and historically, tracking it had absolutely nothing to do with looking up at the sky, but, everything to do with looking down at the dirt.
Which is such a wild paradigm shift.
It really is. So welcome to today's deep dive. If you step outside right now, depending on where you live, you can probably feel that strange, distinct tension in the air.
Oh, absolutely. That early spring feeling.
Exactly. It's that hyper-specific time where you're just caught between the freezing, stagnant cold of winter and like the sudden, surprising warmth of the changing season.
The ice is melting. The mud is everywhere.
Yes, the mud. And to help you navigate this massive shift, we're opening up a really comprehensive, highly detailed guide today. It's titled The 2026 Pink Full Moon Guide to Renewal and Balance.
And I have to say, it is a remarkable stack of source material.
It really covers a lot of ground.
It does. I mean, we are looking at a text that weaves together a lot of seemingly disparate threads. We've got indigenous timekeeping traditions and historical folklore running right alongside, like really intense astrological analysis.
Right.
And then it grounds all of that high-level theory with a granular toolkit of practical metaphysical rituals.
Which we'll definitely get into.
Including some highly specific tactile advice from a section of the guide called Crystals by Rob.
Yeah, the crystal section is fascinating.
It is. It's a document that really attempts to bridge the vastness of the sky above us with the immediate reality of the ground beneath our feet.
And our mission today is to completely demystify this 2026 pink moon for you.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you are a seasoned astrologer who tracks every single planetary transit in a spreadsheet, or you're just someone listening right now who wants a really solid excuse to do some serious spring cleaning in your life.
Mentally, physically, digitally, all of it.
Exactly. We're going to extract the most practical, fascinating, and actionable insights from this guide. So, okay, let's unpack this. I want to start with the most literal, visible aspect of this celestial event.
The physical moon itself.
Right. Because the very first thing our source text does is drop a massive reality check. The pink moon, as we said, does not actually glow pink.
It's probably the most persistent misconception out there, and the guide immediately corrects it.
Yeah, it's fine.
I mean, if you walk outside on the night of the full moon, look up into the sky, and expect to see a giant neon pink sphere hovering in the darkness,
you're going to be so disappointed.
You're setting yourself up for major disappointment. The visual reality is governed by atmospheric physics, not by the moon's cultural nickname.
Right.
Astronomically speaking, when the moon is hovering really low on the horizon just after it rises, it typically appears golden, deep orange, or even like a muddy reddish hue.
And the guide briefly mentions atmospheric conditions as the cause, but let's actually explain the mechanism there for you.
Yeah.
Because it's just fascinating. It really is. It all comes down to a scientific phenomenon known as Rayleigh scattering.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at a moon that is low on the horizon, you're not looking at it through empty space, right? You are looking at the moonlight passing through the absolute thickest possible cross-section of Earth's atmosphere.
Which is essentially a thick soup of gases.
Exactly. And moonlight, which is just reflected sunlight, obviously, contains all the colors of the visible spectrum.
Mm.
But as that light travels through miles and miles of our atmosphere, it hits nitrogen and oxygen molecules.
Right, and the different wavelengths react differently.
Yes. The shorter wavelengths of light, like the blues and the greens, they hit those molecules and they just scatter off in every direction.
They essentially bounce away before they ever even reach your eyeball.
Well, the longer wavelengths, the reds, the oranges, and the yellows, they have the physical property of being able to push through that thick atmospheric soup relatively undisturbed.
It's basically a natural filter.
Yeah. So by the time the light actually reaches your retina, all those cool colors have been stripped away, leaving only that warm, glowing, golden orange tint.
And then, of course, once the moon rises higher in the sky, it clears that thick layer of atmosphere.
Right. The scattering effect diminishes.
Exactly. And it reverts back to that bright, silvery white color we are all used to seeing.
So we've established that the physics of the atmosphere make the moon look orange or golden.
Yes.
Why on earth are we calling it the pink moon?
That is the big question.
The historical context in our guide provides the answer, and it completely shifts the perspective. The name was actually coined by Native American tribes.
Specifically the Algonquin people.
Yes, who populated the northeastern region of North America.
Yeah.
They didn't name the moon after a trick of the light in the sky. They named it after the profound, undeniable shift happening on the ground in their immediate ecosystem.
Right.
They named it after the blooming of the phlox subulata, commonly known as wild ground phlox or moss pink.
And what's fascinating here is the paradigm shift in how we perceive time in our environment.
Oh, totally.
Because the wild ground phlox is this resilient, creeping plant that blankets the eastern United States. In early spring, usually right around April, it erupts into this incredibly vibrant, dense carpet of pink flowers.
It's beautiful, yeah.
But for the Algonquin tribes, the lunar phases were not a strict digital clock ticking away in a vacuum. The moon was an ecological mirror.
Oh, I like that phrase. An ecological mirror.
It was a seasonal marker reflecting the immediate, tangible reality of their survival. The appearance of the moss pink was a critical environmental indicator that the deep freeze of winter was definitively over.
Which obviously meant a massive shift in how they hunted, gathered, and basically navigated their territory.
Exactly. It was a survival metric.
Now, the text points out that this indigenous naming convention was later adopted and popularized in the 19th century by the Farmer's Almanac.
Which is how the phrase pink moon entered the broader modern cultural lexicon, right?
Yeah. But as I was combing through the astronomical data in the guide, I noticed a really bizarre discrepancy. And I want to push back on the text here a little bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because the guide provides us with highly specific data. It says the absolute peak of the 2026 pink moon happens on April 1st at exactly 03.22 UTC. Super precise.
Right.
But then, literally a few paragraphs later, it casually mentions April 13th for the 2026 pink moon.
Yeah.
And then it throws in another curveball mentioning April 5th as the date for something called the Paschal moon.
It's a lot of dates to juggle.
It is. So, if the exact date of this massive energetic event is bouncing around in our sources between April 1st, April 5th, and April 13th, doesn't that completely dilute the whole concept of peak energy?
How so?
Well, I mean, how can you prepare for a powerful energetic threshold if the sources can't even agree on which week the door opens?
That is a very fair point. And honestly, you've hit on the exact tension the guide highlights regarding how modern humans interact with time versus how the natural world actually operates.
Yeah.
To understand the discrepancy, we first need to unpack the terminology you just mentioned.
Let's do it.
The guide lists 03.22 UTC. UTC stands for Coordinated Universal Time. It is the primary time standard by which the world regulates clocks and time.
Right, it's global.
It is a modern, highly engineered construct based on atomic clocks that measure the vibration of atoms to ensure perfect global synchronization.
So it's very rigid.
Very. When astronomers say the moon is completely full at 03.22 UTC, they are measuring the exact geometric millisecond that the Earth is positioned precisely between the sun and the moon. It is a mathematical absolute.
Okay, so that explains the April 1st date. It's the mathematical geometric peak. But what about the April 5th Paschal moon? Because that sounds like a completely different system.
It is a completely different system, one rooted entirely in ecclesiastical history.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the Paschal moon is a specific designation used to calculate the date of Easter. Back in the year 325 AD, the Council of Nicaea decreed that Easter would be celebrated on the first Sunday after the first full moon that occurs on or after the vernal equinox.
Wow. Okay.
So the Paschal moon is a lunisolar calculation. It attempts to marry the solar calendar, which tracks the sun and the seasons, with the lunar calendar, which tracks the moon's phases.
Makes sense.
And then the April 13th date mentioned in the guide likely references a specific localized observation or maybe a different cultural calendar system altogether. The dates fluctuate because human beings are applying completely different mathematical, religious, and cultural overlays onto a single rock orbiting the Earth.
Right. Which brings me right back to my question.
Yeah.
If the dates are all over the place depending on which calendar you use, what happens to the energy of the event? Are we talking about like a season of energy rather than a strict ticking clock?
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the discrepancy actually reinforces the core lesson of the pink moon. Well, ancient cultures did not view the full moon as a digital calendar alert buzzing on a smartphone.
Right. It wasn't an Outlook reminder.
Exactly. The peak of the full moon was merely the visual culmination of a weeks-long buildup and the initiation of a weeks-long release. It is an energetic season.
Oh, okay.
You can see this clearly in the other cultural names the text provides to illustrate this exact point. The full moon isn't an isolated second in time, it's a phase of the ecosystem.
That's true. The guide does list several incredible alternative names. It notes that the Cherokee called this the sprouting grass moon. In traditional European folklore, it was known as the egg moon, symbolizing fertility and new life.
Right.
And coastal indigenous tribes refer to it as the fish moon, specifically to track when the shadow type of fish would begin swimming upstream from the ocean to spawn in the freshwater rivers.
Just think about the underlying mechanics of those names. Grass sprouting from the soil, eggs incubating and hatching, massive schools of fish migrating against river currents. None of these complex biological events happen in a single instant at 03.22 UTC on a Tuesday.
No, of course not. They take weeks.
They are gradual, unfolding processes. The sprouting grass moon is about the slow, persistent return of flora. The fish moon is about the sudden, life-saving availability of a protein source after a long, grueling winter.
Right.
They are deeply tied to survival and organic momentum. The tension you noticed in the dates, that blurring of the timeline, is the perfect metaphor for the messy, imprecise, entirely organic nature of growth.
I love that. So for you listening to this right now, this is really your first major practical takeaway from the deep dive.
Absolutely.
We live in a world governed by strict deadlines, quarter-end financial reports, and incessant digital alerts demanding immediate attention.
Constant notifications.
Yes. The physical reality of the pink moon is an invitation to step out of that rigid, engineered time construct. It is actively asking you to align yourself with a softer, much more gradual natural cycle.
Because you are waking up from your own personal winter slumber.
Exactly. And you don't have to have your entire life perfectly organized and blooming at exactly 03.22 UTC.
No.
You just have to start recognizing that the ice around you is beginning to melt, and it's time to start moving.
It is about honoring forward momentum, but specifically organic momentum. It is a total rejection of forced, rigid scheduling in favor of steady, persistent growth.
Okay, so we have established the physical tension of the season, the environment waking up, the ice melting, the ground preparing to bloom.
Right.
But the guide argues that this external environmental tension is actually just a mirror for a massive psychological tension happening inside of us right now.
Yes, and this takes us out of the literal dirt and into the astrological realm.
Let's get into it.
The text dives deep into the specific planetary alignment of April 2026, and it frames the entire month as a cosmic tug of war.
A tug of war. The guide refers to it as the dance of Aries and Libra.
Right. And this is where the esoteric, metaphysical aspects of astrology became an incredibly grounded tool for personal psychology.
How so?
Well, during this specific pink full moon, the sun is positioned in the zodiac sign of Aries, while the moon is sitting directly opposite to it in the sign of Libra.
Okay.
In astrological mechanics, whenever planets are in opposing signs, it creates a polarity. It generates a dynamic, almost magnetic tension between two conflicting archetypes that demands resolution from the individual experiencing it.
And the guide breaks down these two archetypes in a way that feels very recognizable. The sun, representing our core identity and vitality, is in Aries.
Mm-hmm.
Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It represents the self. The text literally calls it the inner warrior.
It's very aggressive energy.
Very. It is the energy of initiation, bold action, fierce independence, and personal power.
Mm-hmm.
Aries is the spark that starts the fire. It doesn't ask for permission, it just moves forward.
Exactly.
But staring directly back at it across the cosmos is the moon in Libra. And Libra is the complete opposite of Aries.
Total opposite.
Libra is focused entirely on the other. It governs harmony, relationships, deep reflection, diplomacy, and cooperation. It wants everything to be balanced and fair.
Right.
So you have the inner warrior who wants to charge ahead alone, staring down the diplomat who wants to make sure everyone is holding hands before taking a single step.
And the overarching theme of this entire lunation, according to the text, is finding the middle way between those two extreme poles.
The middle way.
Yes. It is about auditing your personal boundaries. It is asking you to integrate the inner masculine energy represented by Aries, which is that assertive, action-driven, self-focused side, with the inner feminine energy represented by Libra, which is the nurturing, receptive, harmonious side. The fundamental question this alignment forces you to answer is, how does your fierce desire for personal independent growth impact the people you love and the communities you belong to?
Here's where it gets really interesting. When I was reading this section of the guide, trying to picture this Aries-Libra dynamic in the real world, I immediately thought about the universal experience of being assigned a group project.
Oh, that is a perfect analogy.
Right. Whether you were in school or you are a professional working on a massive corporate presentation with 5 other colleagues, you know exactly what this feels like.
We've all been there.
Aries is that voice inside your head, that looks at the rest of the group, sees them hesitating, and says, you know what? Everyone else is moving way too slowly. I am just going to take over.
I'll just do it myself.
Exactly. I will create the master document. I will assign the tasks. And honestly, I am probably just going to do the entire project myself at 2 a.m. so it gets done exactly the way I want it.
Pure Aries.
It is pure, unfiltered independence. It is highly effective, but it operates entirely alone. On the flip side, Libra is the part of you sitting at that same conference table, looking around the room, making absolutely sure that every single person in the group feels heard, validated, and included in the decision-making process.
Even if that consensus building means the project takes 3 times as long to finish.
Exactly. We all oscillate between those two extremes.
It is the eternal struggle between autonomy and consensus.
Yeah.
And the inherent danger, which the guide explicitly warns against, is living your life entirely in one of those extremes.
Right.
Let's play out your analogy. If you only ever operate in Aries mode during your group projects or, in your family dynamics or your romantic relationships, you might achieve a high level of personal success.
Sure.
You might get the project done perfectly, but you will systematically alienate your colleagues, you will erode trust, and eventually you will burn yourself out because you are carrying the entire load alone.
Because nobody wants to work with a dictator.
Exactly. However, if you swing entirely to the other side and only operate in Libra mode, you might cultivate a wonderfully harmonious environment where everyone feels deeply loved and heard. But you will likely sacrifice your own goals, lose your individual voice, and you may never actually finish the project because you are completely paralyzed by the fear of upsetting someone.
Right. You just spin in circles.
Exactly. The 2026 pink moon acts as a cosmic mirror, forcing you to look at where you are out of balance and demanding that you integrate the two. The guide expands on this beautifully by introducing the metaphor of the inner garden.
Yes, the inner garden. The guide spends a lot of time on this concept. Let's break down that metaphor because it provides such a clear visual framework for understanding what it actually means to set a boundary.
It does.
Because a lot of self-help books talk about boundaries as these aggressive, defensive things, but the text frames it very differently.
The guide states that auditing your boundaries during this heavy Libra influence is absolutely not about tearing down all your defensive walls to please other people. But equally, it is not about building an impenetrable fortress to protect your fiercely independent Aries energy.
So what is it?
The exact phrasing in the text advises you to audit your boundaries to ensure your inner garden is protected while remaining open to those who nourish your soul.
I love that visual.
Imagine a physical plot of land. If you embrace unbound, unevolved Libra energy, meaning you have no fences whatsoever, no defenses, just a pure desire to connect with every single thing that walks by, wild animals will just wander in and eat all of your newly sprouting moss pink.
Yeah, weeds will overtake your crops.
Exactly. Your personal energy, your resources, and your time will be entirely consumed by the needs and demands of others.
In psychological terms, you become a chronic people pleaser. You cultivate a beautiful harvest, but you literally give it all away to anyone who asks, leaving yourself completely starved.
Precisely. But consider the alternative. If you embrace unevolved Aries energy, you might decide the world is too demanding, so you build a 20-foot-high, solid concrete wall around your garden.
Just totally block everyone out.
You achieve total isolation and complete independence. No one can steal your harvest.
Right.
But because the wall is so high and impenetrable, no sunlight can get in. The rain is blocked. The bees and pollinators cannot enter to fertilize the soil. In your quest for ultimate self-protection, the garden dies in the dark.
Wow.
The middle way that the pink moon demands is constructing a sturdy fence with a functional gate.
A functional gate.
It is possessing the courage and the Aries initiation to clearly state, this is my private space, these are my personal goals, and I am protecting them, while simultaneously possessing the Libra grace and vulnerability to unlock the gate for the specific people who bring water, sunlight, and mutual nourishment into your life.
A strong fence with a working gate. It is such a brilliant way to visualize it.
Well,
And to help you actually figure out the state of your own fences, the guide provides some incredibly pointed journaling prompts.
yes, very specific ones.
The text challenges the reader to sit down and honestly answer 2 questions. Am I giving too much or too little in my connections? And how can I be true to myself while nurturing connections?
And while those prompts read like simple self-reflection exercises, they demand a profound level of self-interrogation.
They really do.
When you ask yourself, am I giving too much or too little?
Right.
You are actively auditing your energetic expenditure. Are you carrying deep-seated resentment toward your partner or your friends because you are always the one compromising your needs for the sake of group harmony?
Which would indicate a broken fence.
Exactly. Or, conversely, are you feeling deeply isolated and unsupported because you continually insist on having everything your way, effectively locking the gate from the inside?
Okay, so understanding this cosmic tug of war is incredibly enlightening in theory. It is a fantastic psychological framework for self-analysis.
Absolutely.
But this brings me to a crucial question for you, the listener. How do you actually do something with this tension?
Right. How do you apply it?
Yeah, how do we take this elegant metaphor of the inner garden, this theoretical balance between Aries and Libra, and use it to practically clear out the stagnation of our own winter? Because reading about boundaries is very different from enforcing them.
That's very true.
Fortunately, Section 3 of our guide pivots dramatically away from astrological theory and dives hard into practical metaphysics and everyday renewal.
The text fundamentally frames the pink moon as the official start of the busy season.
The busy season, yeah.
The slow, introspective, hibernating energy of winter is forcefully replaced by the extroverted, action-oriented demands of spring. And the applications the guide provides are remarkably grounded in everyday life.
They are.
It heavily emphasizes spring cleaning, not just in the traditional sense of physical spaces, but also clearing out digital inboxes, organizing finances, and decluttering your calendar. It suggests conducting active relationship audits, engaging in creative expression, and performing garden blessings.
And the guide also touches on how incredibly universal this specific urge to clean, renew, and ritualize is during this exact time of year.
It really spans cultures.
It does. It doesn't just stick to Western astrology. It explicitly mentions the Buddhist festival of Vesak. Now, Vesak is one of the most important traditions in Buddhism, celebrating the birth, the enlightenment, and the passing of the Buddha. And it traditionally falls during the first full moon of May, but it frequently aligns with the April lunar cycle depending on the calendar year.
Right.
During Vesak, practitioners actively clean their homes, decorate with light, and engage in ceremonies like bathing the Buddha, where water is poured over a statue to symbolize the cleansing of bad karma and the purification of the mind.
It's all about purification.
Exactly. The guide also mentions pagan and Wiccan fertility rituals, specifically traditions surrounding Ostara and Beltane, where practitioners physically plant seeds in the earth and light bonfires to welcome the return of the sun and the fertility of the land.
It's a very visceral time of year.
It is. The text is showing us that across the entire globe, bridging completely different ancient religions and modern belief systems, human beings possess this undeniable, almost biological urge to ritualize this specific seasonal shift. We all want to sweep the floors and plant something new when the ice finally melts.
We do.
But here's where I really struggle with the source material, and I want to heavily challenge this central idea of letting go.
Oh. I'm curious to hear your critique. What specific aspect of the text's approach to letting go felt off to you?
Well, the guide constantly relies on this terminology. It repeatedly tells the reader to release old grudges, to shed habits that no longer serve us, and to clear stagnant energy so we can fully flourish in the spring.
Right.
And when you read that in a beautifully formatted PDF, it sounds so peaceful and easy. Just let it go.
Easier said than done.
Exactly, because human neurobiology and psychology make us desperately want to hold on to our winter baggage. We actually find deep comfort in our old resentments because they are familiar. We secretly like our bad habits. From a survival standpoint, those habits provided us with a dopamine hit or a coping mechanism that kept us warm during the difficult winter months.
They served a purpose.
Right.
Okay.
If it were as easy as simply making a mental decision to let go of our trauma or our bad habits, we would all be walking around fully enlightened. So how does the text suggest we actually force this release when our brains are wired to hold on tight?
This raises a vital question about the fundamental difference between intellectualizing a desire for change and actually experiencing the physical reality of that change.
Okay.
If we look closely at the methodology of the guide, the answer to your critique lies in its heavy, consistent emphasis on embodied actions.
Embodied actions.
Yes. The text does not tell you to simply sit perfectly still on your meditation cushion and think really, really hard about letting go of your anger or your bad habits.
Good, because that never works for me.
Exactly. It demands literal physical movement in the real world to create psychological momentum. This concept aligns perfectly with a field of study called somatic psychology.
Somatic psychology. Let's break that down for the listener. What exactly does that mean in this context?
Well, somatic psychology studies the deeply intertwined relationship between the mind and the body. Traditional talk therapy often focuses purely on the cognitive, changing how you think to change how you feel.
Right.
But somatic psychology recognizes that trauma, stress, and deeply ingrained habits are physically stored in the body's nervous system.
They're locked in.
Yes. If your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response, is locked in a state of stress, simply telling your brain, I am safe, I can let this go, won't work. The brain often requires physical, tangible proof in the external world that a shift has occurred before it will allow the internal mental loop to close.
What?
You have to use physical actions to signal safety and completion to your nervous system.
The brain needs physical proof. I absolutely love that framing. So the guide suggests these embodied actions. What are the specific examples it gives?
The guide suggests highly tactile activities. It advises spending an afternoon tidying up your physical workspace, physically wiping down the dust.
Oh, okay.
It suggests finding a cardboard box, walking through your home, picking up items you no longer need, feeling their weight in your hands, and physically driving them to a donation center.
Actually doing it, not just thinking about it.
Right. It recommends drawing a hot bath, heavily infusing it with Epsom salts and lavender, and physically submerging your body to cleanse the skin. It even advocates for initiating a diplomatic but deeply honest, truth-telling conversation with a friend or partner to physically verbalize the boundaries we discussed earlier.
So to apply the somatic psychology framework to this, if you are holding onto a deep grudge against a former friend, just sitting on your couch and whispering, I forgive them, I'm letting it go, probably won't do anything.
Unlikely.
The mental loop continues. But if you walk through your house, physically gather up the photographs, the old birthday cards, the gifts that remind you of that person, and place them into a heavy trash bag, tie the knot, and physically walk that bag out to the curb.
Yeah.
Your nervous system witnesses that physical action.
Exactly.
Your brain sees the muscles working, sees the objects disappearing, and it registers, oh, okay, we are literally taking out the trash. The old energy is actually gone. We are safe to move on.
You are actively manipulating your physical environment to force a shift in your psychological environment.
I love that.
The physical actions generate the necessary kinetic momentum to break the profound inertia of the winter months. This is also why the guide heavily emphasizes the act of planting actual, literal seeds in the dirt.
Right.
It is sympathetic magic, but it's also neuroscience. As you spend weeks watering that seed and watching the green shoot push through the soil, your brain is provided with a continuous physical visual representation of your own internal intentions growing and developing.
Which means, to you listening, this section of the guide is incredibly actionable regardless of your belief system. Even if you completely ignore the astrological mechanics, even if you roll your eyes at the idea of Aries and Libra, or you don't care about the historical folklore of the Algonquin tribes.
Right.
Using the 2026 pink moon as a hard, non-negotiable celestial deadline is a brilliant life hack. It is the perfect excuse to finally dedicate a weekend to clearing out your digital inbox.
Yeah.
To finally sit down and have that uncomfortable truth-telling conversation about boundaries that you've been avoiding since December. You are leveraging a major astronomical event to force a personal deadline for your own mental health.
It serves as a monumental framework for accountability. I mean, the moon is going to reach its peak fullness whether you are prepared for it or not.
Exactly.
The season is going to change. You might as well utilize the psychological weight of the event to illuminate the dusty corners of your life that desperately require sweeping.
Well said. But for those of you who do want to lean fully into the deeper, more mystical, esoteric side of this guide, the source material does not leave you hanging.
Not at all.
In fact, it provides a highly specific, curated toolkit designed to maximize this lunar energy. And this brings us to the fascinating insights provided by a source identified in the text as Crystals by Rod.
Right. Rob's contributions add a profoundly tactile mineralogical layer to this entire process.
They really do.
He emphasizes the pink moon as a rare opportunity for deep spiritual renewal and heavily advocates for working with specific geological tools crystals to physically anchor your mental intentions.
And what's the main method he suggests?
The overarching recommendation from Rob is to take your current collection of stones and physically place them under the light of the April full moon.
The moonlight.
Yes. The intention is to cleanse them of the stagnant winter energy they've absorbed and reset their vibrational frequencies to align with the highly active, blooming months ahead.
And the list of specific crystals Rob provides is extensive. But what I find fascinating is that each stone seems explicitly chosen to address that exact Aries-Libra tension we spent so much time dissecting earlier.
It's very deliberate.
It's not just a random assortment of pretty rocks, it's a targeted prescription.
Mm-hmm.
So let's walk through the exact mechanics of these stones, because I want to understand why these specific crystals are recommended.
Let's do it.
First on Rob's list is carnelian. The guide explicitly states this is the stone for Aries action. It is used to boost courage, enhance motivation, and ignite personal power.
Right. And to understand why carnelian is prescribed for Aries energy, you have to look at its physical properties.
Okay, lay it on me.
Carnelian is a variety of chalcedony, a mineral in the quartz family. But what gives it its distinct fiery orange and deep red coloration are the iron oxide impurities within the stone.
Iron oxide.
Yes. Iron oxide is essentially rust, but it is also the core component of human blood. Hemoglobin relies on iron to transport oxygen.
Oh, wow.
So for centuries across various cultures, the deep red of carnelian has been symbolically and metaphysically linked to the bloodstream, to vitality, to the raw, pulsing energy of life.
That is so cool.
When you need to embody the bold, initiating inner warrior energy of Aries, you work with a stone that physically embodies the color and the elemental makeup of blood and fire.
That makes perfect sense. So you have carnelian acting as the battery for your independence.
Yeah.
But to balance that, Rob suggests rose quartz, which is deeply tied to the Libra energy of harmony.
Right.
The text calls rose quartz the quintessential stone for the pink moon. It is used for cultivating profound self-compassion, healing deep emotional wounds, and promoting unconditional love in relationships. It is the energetic counterweight to the aggressive fire of the carnelian.
And again, looking at the geology, rose quartz gets its soft, delicate pink hue from microscopic inclusions of silicate mineral fibers or sometimes trace amounts of titanium, iron, or manganese.
Very different from the carnelian.
Exactly. Unlike the aggressive, opaque redness of carnelian, rose quartz is often translucent, allowing light to pass through it softly. Metaphysically, it is believed to emit a very gentle, soothing frequency. If carnelian is the loud drum beat of a march, rose quartz is a quiet, sustained hum. It represents the Libra diplomat, soft, receptive, and focused on maintaining an unbroken flow of harmonious energy.
Rob's toolkit also lists several supportive stones. He includes lepidolite, which the text says is specifically for emotional balance and releasing the stress that builds up within relationships.
Lepidolite is a fascinating inclusion.
Why is that?
From a geological standpoint, lepidolite is a mica mineral that contains naturally high amounts of lithium.
Wait, really? Lithium?
Yes, and in modern allopathic medicine, lithium is a primary component in mood-stabilizing medications used to treat severe anxiety, bipolar disorder, and depression.
That is incredible.
So metaphysical practitioners use lepidolite as a physical touchstone for calming an overactive nervous system. It literally contains the Earth's natural anti-anxiety medication.
Wow, so the metaphysics directly map onto the chemistry. That's amazing.
It really is.
He also recommends clear quartz, which the guide notes acts as a universal amplifier. It takes whatever intention you set, whether it's Aries boundary setting or Libra compassion, and turns up the volume on it.
Right.
Furthermore, dealing specifically with the themes of the sprouting grass and the spring bloom, Rob highlights green aventurine. The guide frames this as a tool to actively invite abundance and literally open doors to new opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it as the ultimate stone for the garden blessing aspect of the moon. And to clear away the literal dirt of winter, he prescribes selenite.
Selenite is crucial for the cleansing aspect. It is a crystallized form of gypsum, usually appearing in these long, striated, translucent wands.
Right.
Because it is highly porous and visually resembles frozen water or captured moonlight, it is traditionally used to sweep away energetic debris. It is the metaphysical equivalent of a broom for that winter stagnation you mentioned earlier.
There are two more highly specific stones in Rob's toolkit that I found intriguing. Apricot Botswana agate, which the text claims is perfect for the transition of the seasons, providing quiet, sustained strength and grace during periods of massive shift.
Beautiful stone.
And finally, pink tourmaline, which the guide says is necessary to protect the heart space as you become more visible in your personal growth and manifestation.
Yes.
But accumulating these stones is really only half the battle. The guide doesn't just give you a shopping list, it details a highly specific step-by-step practice called the Embodied Confidence Ritual.
Which ties everything together.
Yes. This ritual is designed to tie all these disparate geological elements and psychological themes into one singular physical event for emotional renewal.
It is a beautifully constructed ritual that acts as the ultimate embodied action we discuss regarding somatic psychology.
Let's walk through it.
Let's break down the mechanics of the steps because it illustrates exactly how to move from a theoretical intention into a physical reality. The ritual begins with the cleansing phase. The guide instructs you to take a selenite bowl or a raw wand of selenite and literally sweep it over your physical body, inches from your skin.
Just sweeping the air around you.
Yes. As you make this physical sweeping motion, you are instructed to visualize any heavy, gray, stagnant energy from the past grueling winter physically detaching from your body and falling away into the floor.
Once the space is cleared, you move into the illumination phase. You are instructed to physically strike a match and light a pink or white candle. As you watch the physical flame catch and grow, you are told to visualize your own inner light, your personal ambition, finally blooming, exactly like the wild moss pink we talked about at the very beginning of the deep dive.
The physical flame anchors the visual.
Right. Next comes the reflection phase. You take the rose quartz, the stone of Libra compassion, and hold it directly over your physical heart space.
And this is where the text introduces a powerful, terrifying journaling prompt.
Oh, yeah. What part of me is finally ready to be seen? And you must write that answer down in ink.
Yes. Following the heavy psychological work of reflection, you move into the charging phase. You place a bowl of fresh, clean water on a windowsill or outside to physically catch the moonlight, creating what practitioners call moon water.
Okay.
You place the rose quartz right next to the bowl so the water absorbs both the lunar energy and the soft, loving frequency of the stone.
Right.
And finally, the ritual concludes with the release. You dip your physical fingers into the charged moon water, touch the cold water directly to your chest over your heart, and then touch it to the center of your forehead, reciting a specific mantra.
Yes, the mantra. So what does this all mean? The final mantra you must speak out loud is,
I am safe to bloom.
I release the fear of my own light.
That is a heavy line.
When I read those specific words, it absolutely stopped me in my tracks.
Why is that?
Because it subverts everything we are taught about human anxiety. Why is the fear of our own light highlighted here? Usually self-help guides focus on the fear of failure or the fear of the dark or the fear of not being good enough.
Right.
Why on earth are we so deeply afraid of blooming?
This raises what is arguably the most important psychological question of the entire guide. And it brings us full circle right back to the core Aries-Libra dynamic.
How so?
We are culturally conditioned to believe that our greatest, most paralyzing fear is the fear of failure. But psychologically speaking, the prospect of immense success, of total visibility, and of stepping fully into your personal power can be infinitely more terrifying.
Really?
Yes. Remember the polarity. Aries desperately wants to shine brightly, to achieve massive goals, to stand out from the crowd and say, look at what I built.
Right, the warrior energy.
But Libra, the deeply ingrained part of our psyche focused entirely on community and relationships, is terrified that shining too brightly will alienate the people around us.
Oh, wow.
Libra feels that if we become too successful, too radiant, too happy, or too visible, we will disrupt the fragile harmony of our social circles. We harbor a subconscious terror that our friends will become jealous, that our family will feel left behind, or that by standing out, we make ourselves a target for criticism. That makes so much sense. So the ritual is specifically, surgically targeting the subconscious limiting belief that personal growth inherently costs us our relationships.
Yes.
When you touch the water to your heart and say, I am safe to bloom, you are actively giving your nervous system permission to be brilliant, to be successful, and to be visible without carrying the heavy toxic guilt that your success might make someone else uncomfortable.
Exactly. The ritual is the ultimate integration of the two opposing forces. It is the physical manifestation of the middle way.
Wow.
It teaches your brain that you can be the bright, individual, roaring Aries flame and still maintain the loving, supportive Libra connections. One archetype does not have to destroy the other. You do not have to dim your light to keep your friends warm.
That is an incredibly powerful realization. For you listening right now, this is how you make all of this high-level metaphysics real and tangible in your daily life.
Now, if performing a full multi-step ritual with candles, crystals, and moon water feels a little too esoteric or overwhelming for you, the guide offers incredibly simple, grounded alternatives.
It does.
You can try building the basic manifestation grid that Rob suggests. Simply taking a piece of carnelian, a piece of rose quartz, and a piece of clear quartz. placing them in a triangle on your desk, and putting a Post-it note with your spring goal written on it right in the center.
Super simple.
Or even simpler, and my personal favorite, just take a small piece of green aventurine, or even just a regular pebble from your driveway that you infuse with intention, and press it into the soil of a potted plant in your kitchen.
I love that one.
Right. Every single time you walk by that plant and water it, that physical stone serves as a touchstone, a constant visual reminder of the personal growth goals you are nurturing this spring.
It ultimately does not matter which specific method you choose. It is purely about finding the physical practice that anchors your mental intention. Whether you are arranging specific geological crystals, physically pulling weeds in a community garden, or just dedicating a Sunday afternoon to doing a massive deep scrub of your kitchen floors, you are actively participating in the exact same energy of the pink moon. You are moving stagnant energy out to make room for new life.
So to bring all of these disparate threads together into a cohesive picture, we have journeyed an incredibly long way today.
We really have.
We started with the atmospheric physics of Rayleigh scattering, shifting to the Algonquin tribes relying on the vibrant moss pink on the forest floor to track their seasonal survival. We unpacked the confusing lunisolar mechanics of the Paschal moon and the ecclesiastical calendars. We navigated the complex, often messy psychological tightrope walk between asserting our fierce Aries independence and nurturing our deep Libra need for loved ones.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. The 2026 pink full moon isn't just a beautiful, slightly orange-tinted celestial anomaly to point your phone at for 5 minutes before going back inside to watch television.
Not at all.
It is a comprehensive, multi-layered framework for balancing our boldest, most selfish individual desires with our deepest, most selfless human needs for connection. It is the universe handing you a broom, a map of your own boundaries, and a packet of seeds, and saying, the ice has melted, the winter is over, it's time to get to work.
It truly is a profound call to action. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
Something to mull over that builds on the very foundation of everything we've unpacked today. We spent a significant amount of time at the beginning of this conversation talking about the wild ground phlox blooming, the literal botanical inspiration for the pink moon's name.
Right, the moss pink.
We as a society, particularly in the modern digital age, spend an overwhelming amount of our time and energy focusing on the bloom itself.
We do.
We focus intensely on the visible success, the outward manifestation of our goals, the bright pink petals catching the sunlight for everyone on social media to see. That is the ultimate expression of the Aries energy, the bold, undeniable self-expression.
The warrior showing off.
Exactly. But biologically speaking, a flower can only bloom safely, and more importantly, it can only withstand the violent, unpredictable storms of the spring season if its root system is deeply, inextricably, and widely entangled with the dark earth beneath it.
The unseen connections, the parts of the plant that exist entirely in the dark, holding the whole operation together.
Exactly. Consider this. What if the true ultimate lesson of this Aries-Libra cosmic balance isn't actually about compromising your brilliant bloom just to make the other flowers around you comfortable?
Yeah.
What if the profound lesson is realizing that your deep connections to others, your tangled roots, your community, your Libra harmony are the very things that make your soaring individual brilliance possible in the first place?
Wow.
Your fierce independence does not and cannot exist in a vacuum. Your ability to reach for the sun is entirely fed by the dark, messy, nutrient-rich ground you share with everyone else. It is something for you to deeply ponder the next time you step outside. Look up at the night sky and see that massive golden-orange orb rising heavy above the horizon.
Your roots are exactly what make your brilliance possible. I absolutely love that reframing. So instead of constantly demanding mathematical precision and neat, sterile little categories from the universe, maybe we can use this season to learn to appreciate the messy, tangled, deeply beautiful root system of our own lives.
That's the goal.
Thank you so much for joining us on this extensive exploration of the 2026 Pink Moon Guide. Keep digging into your sources, keep learning about the world around you, and please enjoy your spring renewal. We will see you on the next deep dive.